Happy Memorial Day. So today I'm recording from my mom's farm in Kansas. I thought that'd be fun, and I have a Memorial Day-esque theme planned. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the farm, and I'm going to talk a bit about the military and my family, because that's what Memorial Day is about, and tell you what's going on. So this past week I was packing the Kit Club shipment. Excuse me. And if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram or, well, anything, you'll know that it's a huge deal with a lot of boxes. So I scammed my mom into coming to help me out to pack some boxes. And we did them in record time, and I'm really excited about this shipment because I'm not busting the secret, but I designed an exclusive pattern for this Kit Club shipment. So that's not something, sorry, I have a frog in my throat. That's not something I can do for every time just because of the time involved, but I like to mix things up. So sometimes I splurge a little extra money on the goodie, sometimes I put extra effort into the technique that's involved in the Kit Club shipment, and this time the splurge was to design a pattern. And the pattern uses a new technique that I developed, and I mean, it's probably not like brand new, but I came up with it on my own. It's new for me. I'm sure people have come up with it like 20 times, but it's really cool. So I'm really excited about that, and the treat for doing that whole thing was to take Memorial Day weekend off. So my mom lives on a farm in Kansas, and Tim and I are here for the weekend, just chilling. Have my coffee, see? Hanging out with the chickens, playing with the dogs, you know, doing farm stuff. So you might be curious why my mom lives on a farm in Kansas. Because if you know, I grew up in Maryland. My mom is certainly not from Kansas. So it's a good story. If you can hear, those are chickens. Chickens in the background. So my mom grew up in Maryland as well, and we both grew up in Silver Spring, which is an area like it touches DC, 5 minutes outside DC. So when she was in high school, she dated a guy named Clyde, and Clyde's dad worked for the government, and he was from Kansas but had moved to the DC area for his job to work for the government. And my mom and Clyde dated in high school, and apparently my grandparents, I mean, I wasn't around at the time, said he's a bad influence, and they had to break up and whatever. So they broke up. Years go by, they both remarried, divorced, blah blah blah. And then about 15 years ago, my mom had never stopped talking about Clyde, and she had a friend who, you know, the internet was coming along, and she had a friend who looked Clyde up on the internet, and I guess it was Facebook, I don't know, found him, and they started talking on the phone, and they were both free, and fast forward a year or two, and she moved back out to Kansas. And so that's the story of, oh, see, a truck's coming back. That's how this goes in the farm. And so that's the story about how my mom lives in Kansas. And so it's a good story. It's on the farm. Clyde, my stepfather, lives on the farm that his great-grandfather worked, and the house that he built. So it's a really great environment. I'm paranoid about getting watched while I'm filming. You know that about me. That's okay. I'm okay with everyone watching after, but when I'm filming, oh, I'm so paranoid. So Clyde, well, since Clyde just pulled up in the driveway, he's done so many things in life. It's really amazing the jobs he had. He got into a lot of schools after, colleges after school. Carnegie Mellon, MIT, those sorts of things, and he decided that he didn't want to go to college, and so he became a master printmaker. He worked for a while I don't know what master printmakers do. They make printing things. He worked at a Coca-Cola label factory making prints, and then in the 80s he decided he wanted to come back to the farm. That was his family's farm, and he farmed for a while. Farming, if you don't know, is actually an incredibly expensive thing to do, and it's gotten even more expensive now that there are giant corporations that run the farming business. So he farmed until, I guess, the late 80s, when it really became unsustainable to continue making a profit and a living farming. Something even just like a combine, which is the things that, whatever, I don't know, they till the soil, then they pick up some stuff, and then they do other farm-related tasks, are over $1 million. So if you're trying to work a really large piece of land and you need one of these things, you need a lot of capital to keep doing it. So he did that. He has delivered newspapers. So actually now my mom and Clyde on Sunday deliver newspapers and for the town. And then Clyde also works on the turnpike. That's like the freeway, you know, the freeway thing. So yeah, they just live out here with some, they have chickens, they rent out the land to cow people, like, so the cows can eat the grass that's around. Some of it goes to soybean farming, some of it's just woods that's used for firewood. So it's a great life, and it's sort of close to me, so we come and visit whenever we can. So that's the story of how my mom lives on a farm. Whenever I say I'm going to visit Kansas, everyone asks, are you from Kansas? And I'm not. But my mom lives here now. So, okay, my theme for today, I wanted to say it's not really a Memorial Day talk, because I know Memorial Day is about remembering people who have passed away. So it's sort of a Veterans Day talk, because some of the people are still living, but a lot of them have passed away. So I figure, you know, since I'm filming, this would be a good place to just go ahead and give the whole spiel. So what people may or may not know from following my blog is, well, I don't know how you'd know, is that a large number of my family has been in the military, and I'm a crybaby. That's, if I get teary, that's why. So I'll start on my mom's side. My great-grandfather, my grandfather's father, was a medic in World War I. He came back and survived and became a taxi driver. His son, my grandfather, they were actually really poor growing up. My grandfather was a migrant farmer, so if you do or don't know what that means you work for very low wages farming other people's farms because you don't own your own land. So he was a migrant farmer in Pennsylvania, and he went to the 9th grade, and that was it. And when World War II started, he joined in World War II. He was stationed in China and the Philippines and all of these crazy faraway places, and we don't have any of his letters anymore because when my grandmother started getting very ill, she decided that those were personal letters, and she ripped all of them up and left the rubber band around the envelopes and put them back in the cedar chest. So when she passed away, we found lots of envelopes and no letters. We have a couple telegrams, which are really, I mean, telegrams are just like a mode of communication that we don't even think of anymore. You know, you pay per letter, and so we have a couple telegrams where he was telling his dad he was okay from China, but that's about it. He was on the USS Comstock, if that means anything to anyone. So he was in the Navy, and World War II ended. So he has a sister, Darshjean. Well, it's his half-sister, but Darshjean's husband, so my grandfather's brother-in-law, D-E-E, just in case you're curious, D was in Korea, and he actually was a captain, and he was in a quite famous battle, and I have a book that I haven't yet read that has him as a leading role in it. The things that are funny are that you pass on traditions orally. You know, you hear about things from your parents or grandparents, and you don't always know what am I trying to say? Like, the full story. And so we'd always known this guy as D. Well, I mean, I didn't know him personally because he passed away before I was born, but he's just D, right? And so then my uncle told me that, you know, he's in this book and like he did all this stuff, and you actually go and look, and his first name's Monroe and D is his middle name. And that's true of much of my family. They're from the South. And so for example, my grandmother's name, we called her, well, I called her Mimi, but other people called her Jackie, and her name was Mary Jacqueline. So that was just because it's very typical to go by your middle name. I often got called Marie by my grandmother. So yeah, Dee, who we now know his first name was Monroe, who knew, fought in Korea apparently very famously, and he became a consultant, and he died of a heart attack in Vietnam on a bar stool outside Nha Trang. So I never met him because he passed away. And then it keeps going. My uncle, the one who told me this history, my uncle and my mom are 9 years apart, so it's my mom's brother, so he tends to know. I mean, he was just older when things were happening. And there's also very much a tradition of not telling girls certain things in my family, so my uncle knows a lot of stuff that my mom just wasn't told as a child. And so for Vietnam, obviously that started in the 60s. My uncle didn't finish high school. He asked his parents to sign the papers for him early, and he entered the military at 17. And sorry, I told you I'm a crybaby. He's alive, right? I've talked to him. He served 3 tours in Vietnam. The thing, you might be curious, if he's alive, why am I so weepy, right? He was never injured. He is completely fine. In some ways, I think, though, for me personally, his story is more painful than my other uncle who was killed, who I'll get to soon. Because war's tough on people, and for the longest time I really despised my uncle. I mean, he's actually mean. Really short temper. He abused my cousins. This is gonna sound awful, but for my family, not unusually abused. He just used a belt, which actually for a lot of Southern families is very normal, to use a belt on a child who's being mildly unruly. But it took a long time before I realized that he went through some really awful stuff, and it's a generation of people who doesn't talk about it and doesn't really accept, let's say, going to therapy or talking about it as a way of recovering. So in some ways, I was really lucky, and my cousins were not quite so much. And there's a legacy of things people have had to recover from as a result of what happened in the 70s, right? I mean, we're talking about boys, right, 17 years old, who went overseas, were told to kill people, and came home and were spit on. So, and then you're asking those people to raise children. So that's been tough for a whole branch. My cousins grew up fine. They're fine people. Lovely people, but not wealthy people, not what you would call having illustrious jobs. And my little cousin, who's my cousin's daughter, she lived with us for a period of time. For financial reasons, my cousins lived with us, and my little cousin now, who I'm very proud of, she's 22, and she is in the reserves, because that's pretty much the only way a lot of kids can pay for college. So, I've lived in lots of different parts of the country, and people feel very differently about the military. And I've lived in the Northeast, in wealthier parts of town, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that for large swaths of our population, joining the military is your best career option, and it's the easiest way to pay for college. We lived in New Haven, Connecticut, which is the home of Yale, and every parent there is paying close to $250,000 to send their kids to college. That's really not an option for a heck of a lot of the country. And I would hear people say like, oh, why don't you just take out a loan? Or, well, first of all, if your parents make $20,000 a year, it's really hard to get a loan for that amount of money. And second of all, if you've grown up not having a lot of extra money, the idea of taking on a loan that size, and you know, when you're looking at maybe making $40,000 to $50,000 when you get out, because that is the area you live in, is completely crazy. So a lot of kids join the military. I was really lucky to get a full scholarship to college because of my grades. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. I'm the first person with the immediate family I grew up with to go to college. And as I've said, obviously I'm one of the few actually who graduated high school. So I want people to know about that and to say that out loud, because it's not something I feel like everyone's aware of. Oh, not the sun's, sorry. If the sun's like making the camera crazy, I'm sorry. I was trying to get barn atmosphere. I don't know if you know or not, but like a real farm is like full of crap everywhere. Like broken tractors, like this was the best. This was a good view. This was a really good one. There's a lot of debris. Actually, there's a collapsing barn right there. Maybe I'll turn the camera around. So that's just one side of my family. The second side of my family is my dad's side. My dad's one of 6 boys. He's the third from the bottom boy. And his dad passed away when he was little, when he was about 9. So his oldest brother joined the military, the Army, and actually left to come back home to work to support the family when his dad passed away. So he was pre-Vietnam era. My second uncle joined the Army, was sent to Vietnam. Third uncle joined the Army, was sent to Vietnam and was killed. And my dad was a bit young, and his brother had been killed, so he was not sent to Vietnam. He joined the Navy, worked at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, which is how he ended up moving from Chicago to Maryland, where I was born. Next uncle joined the Navy, and then the next uncle did not. So that's 5 boys from 6 who were in the military, from a Midwestern town without a father earning an income. That's what you do. My Uncle Teddy, who was killed in the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone. We think it was small arms fire, so the story, I guess it's not that important. He was shot at close range. So last year, you may know, I went to Vietnam. Besides loving the food, I really love Vietnam as a country. It was really important to me to go. Sorry, caught me on a day. To go and see as close to where I could, where he was killed. And the other thing I didn't expect, that, I mean, you'll never find, unless you have really specific records, you're never going to find like, oh, that spot on the ground was the place, right? We found the general area. We visited some camps where his unit was probably stationed. And it was the place that suffered the heaviest fighting. I don't know which part's saddest. He was killed a month before his 19th birthday. And he was also killed just months before they started evacuating the zone. So if you can remember what it was like when you were 18, or if you have kids, just think about for a minute what your kid is doing when they're 18, right? Nowadays, a lot of kids are just like still picking up pocket money from their parents, you know, like to go out to the movies, or you know, taking someone out on a date. And unfortunately, we're still in an era where we're asking those kids to go overseas and kill people. So like I said before, my uncle, I never knew, obviously it's born in the 80s, but my other uncle, his older brother, who did survive and come back, just like my other uncle, can be mean, right? They're lived through a lot of stuff that they never figured out how to talk to anyone about, and they're tough cookies. And that's probably one of the biggest issues we're having, besides people being killed, is reintegrating them into society. And I think with the current war, that's something we're learning to be our biggest challenge, because you know, in World War II, most of the people just died. If your leg got shot off, you know, there wasn't much they could do. Maybe they tied a tourniquet on it, maybe you lived, maybe you didn't. We're really good with medical technology now, and so a lot of people survive, which is great, and we're really struggling to heal the emotional wounds, and help these people reintegrate into society. So that's the story. So it's supposed to be a happy thing. Anyway, I guess the last thing I wanted to say before talking about what's new and what's happening is the other issue that comes up around this time of year is how we treat the average person in the military. And I don't really care what your political position is. You might be able to tell I'm not a fan that we're sending people overseas, you know? We're asking a lot of our kids, and we're asking a lot of kids who may have not had the choice to join the military. They might be doing it because it's the only thing they can do, and that's a pretty serious burden. But no matter how you feel, unless you run into the president or a 5-star general, that person has absolutely no choice in what they're doing and what the country's policy is. They're doing their job and they're doing what they're told. So taking it out on a person just isn't cool. I just wanted to say that out loud because I think that's something that's really important. The average person has, I mean, even high up people have absolutely no control about what they're doing. And it's easy to say, well, if you don't agree, you could have just not joined the military. Then I'd like you to think about how a kid from the middle of Oklahoma is going to be employed in today's economy. We have very little manufacturing jobs. Well, here in Emporia, Kansas, which is close to where my mom's farm is, most people earn minimum wage. Renting a house, a full house, right? Let's say you want a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. You could do it for $400 a month. So a lot of people say, why don't you just get out? How is someone who is used to paying $400 a month and earning that kind of wage going to save enough to move to a city where you're paying $1,000 a month for a studio? It's the exact same problem people have when they immigrate. When you move from, we have a lot of different economies in this country, and when you move from an economy that's so small, like a small town, it's really not feasible for you to move up into a different economy. It's a lot like immigrating to a different country. To find the resources to put down a 2-month, you know, security deposit or whatever it is in New York or Atlanta or wherever, is a lot. So it's not always so easy as, you know, just find a better job. Yeah, that's all I had to say. Wanted to say all those things out loud. And you may not know someone in the military, you may not know someone who you can say thank you to. But I think if everyone's a little more mindful about how hard it is, about how much sacrifice is happening, not just to the people who are killed or even are in war, but to everyone in the whole system, I think that compassion will go a long way. So, what else am I doing? Well, I'm on vacation until tomorrow, and what am I doing? I might visit the Eisenhower Presidential Museum, because I am a big Presidential Museum buff. You might know that because I recently visited another presidential museum, the Carter one, when I was at Stitches South in Atlanta. And then we'll come home, and what's next on the calendar? So, in a few days, the new dog club pattern will be coming out. I'm really excited about that. The next one's a cute one. I hate to say this out loud, I may or may not have lost all of my notes on it. It's somewhere. It's really somewhere. Totally somewhere. Just not somewhere I know where it is. So in any case, the pattern's done. I just have to find the notes. And if I can't find the notes, it's okay. I know how to recreate the notes from looking at my stitches, but that's not the most fun thing to do. The next one's really cute. I can't say too much about it. I will say it's color work is the next theme. I've really been working on designing dogs that are introducing some new skills to people who maybe are just used to doing my regular patterns. And then I'm going to be posting the summer schedule. So a lot of fun things are happening this summer. I am collaborating on some crochet alongs with some other companies, which is sort of new for me and I'm really excited about. I will have a couple new patterns coming out. Basically summer's the time to get ready for like the fall craziness. So in some ways I'm playing it a little slow, like I'm you know, it doesn't look like I do a ton during the summer, but behind the scenes I'm actually preparing for like all of the crazy that's getting ready for the holidays. So there's a lot of thinking about what's coming up next and planning the next series of patterns, and also planning the kit clubs. So I'm really excited about a new change I made to the kit club that I hope will alleviate some confusion. So there's a couple, it's a long story so I won't go through the whole thing, but previously you were able to sign up anytime. And so what happened, let's say the cutoff for sign up was February 30th. There's no 30th, February 28th. It could happen that you sign up on March 1st and you're paying for the May kit, but because of the way the structure works, you'd be charged again on May 1st, so you'd be paying twice before you actually got your first kit. And for new people who signed up, who happened to sign up really early in the cycle, it was incredibly confusing, and I can always tell when I get the same question via email at least 2 or 3 times, then something's wrong and I need to change something. It's sort of my policy. So I've switched to a limited sign-up system where there's a window. Right now it's May 20th to June 20th that you can sign up for the kit club, and that will alleviate a lot of this confusion about when is sign up, when are you getting charged, when are you getting your first kit. So right now is the sign up period for the July kit, and it will end June 20th. So if you want to, you should sign up now. You can go onto our Ravelry group and check out the spoiler thread, just to see what this month's kit is. If you're interested, I would sign up, because once that sign up period is closed, you're gonna have to wait until the next sign up period to do it, and that's just how we're gonna roll from now on, to make the whole system fly. So definitely do that. While we're talking about the Ravelry group, I would really like it if you would share a story you have about either a veteran or a person who's currently serving in the military. Just share it with the rest of our group. I think people would be surprised by, you know, at what ages you can serve in the military, right? There are some people who have been lifelong people. There are some people who might have extraordinary circumstances. Maybe some interesting stories from the Vietnam era. I've noticed that some people are of that generation are starting to share now. I guess they feel like it's been long enough and the stigma isn't there. You may know someone in the current skirmishes that are happening. So if you want to share, and also I've always said our group is a safe place. The burden falls heavily on the spouses as well. So if you just need to talk about some whatever that you're having as a spouse or a child, and you just want to share, because a lot of people can't help but bringing everything they go through home. And we want to be a place where we can talk about that and alleviate some of that burden. So please pop over to the Ravelry group, share a little bit. And I really hope that you're having some happy grilling tonight to celebrate the Memorial Day holiday. It's not supposed to be that sad. Sorry. But, you know, it is supposed to be a little sad. we're remembering people who've passed away. So keep those two things in mind, right? Have a good hot dog, and take a couple moments out to remember those who have fought really hard. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I promise this is probably the most I'll cry in one episode, and it's upwards from here on out. So I'm gonna show you the barn that's falling apart, just so we can do that as we go on out. Wait, ready? Hold on, sorry. So there we go. This is like real farm life. This is a collapsed barn. The roof has caved in. And then, see, there's junk. That's how this goes. Because on a farm, I don't know, you might have to build a something, and then you need, who knows what, like some corrugated metal or something crazy like that. And I'm just gonna we're gonna close with chickens. We're going to close with chickens. Oh, they don't like the camera. Hey chickies! Hey chickies, someone say hi. Okay, say bye chickens. Closing out. See you next time.